welcome to our next English Mindway podcast episode. My name is Martina Weifenbach, and I am excited to be here with Joy Ravelli and Eric Kendall-Sparks today, the founders and owners of Purusha Yoga Studio in San Francisco. In this podcast here, we discuss mindfulness, innovation, and new ways to work. The Mindway podcast is for leaders, visionaries, and everyone who wants to shape the world mindfully. As you might know, we always choose one word that guides our conversations. And if you know or you could see Eric and Joy now, you would probably understand why I chose the word that I chose today, which is going to be kindness. The word came to me because I so fondly remember Eric and Joy guiding me on my yoga path. They were always kind and generous. They encouraged me, but they were also deeply honest, which really shaped my life for forever, to be very honest. And in my mind, I still call them both my yoga parents, and I'm very proud that they are here with me today. Hi.
Thank you, Martina. That is so generous of you, and it's beautiful to be here. And I thank you so much for sharing what you shared for us. It's really a privilege and an honor to hear from students from the past, and that you felt all that you felt and received what you received is, of course, only a reflection of where you were in your life and so ready to receive the practices. So thank you so much for inviting us back into your life.
You were always part of my life. You were never gone. Well, I already said we're going to have a word here guiding us. And actually, I wanted to introduce you both, but to be honest, I think you're much better at introducing yourselves. Maybe you can just briefly share a bit about you, whoever wants to start, how you came to do what you're doing and what made you maybe who you are today.
Should I go?
Go ahead, Eric.
Okay. Well, it's been a wonderful journey in my mind's eye. A lot has happened, but it just seems like yesterday. And I remember my mother handing me a big book called Hatha Yoga. And I looked at it and I said, oh, this is neat. And then I kind of went, I just want to play football. And I ended up walking into a dance class in college, and 4 years later I was hired by Boston Ballet. I ended up dancing all around the world with major ballet companies such as Boston Ballet, Cleveland San Jose Ballet, Miami City Ballet. And I had a great career, came back to Diablo Ballet here in Walnut Creek, the East Bay, east of San Francisco. And, you know, I never really worked a day in my life. I was doing something that I loved to do. And I was gifted. That was such a gift, 25 years of doing that. And then I lost that. I lost that love. And all I wanted to do was surf. So I moved to San Francisco, and I really just wanted to surf. I didn't want to work, but I ended up working and finding a modicum of success, and found my way back to teaching ballet and teaching yoga. Then when I found that I was changing and shifting due to the nature of yoga and what that causes when we start to teach it, and ourselves and our hearts and our awareness, and becoming mindful and finding more kindness in our lives, as you brought up, that we'll talk about today, I ran into the joy of my life. And even after 10 and a half years, I found incredible connection and growth with this woman named Joy Ravelli. And it's changed my life. It's changed everything about me. And it's really about awareness and mindfulness and learning to be kind. And, you know, the people that we love the most, we act the truest in front of. And Joy has, I'm not jumping into anything deep here, but Joy has dealt with the good, the bad, and the ugly in my life. And so have I with her, as we have coupled as a partnership and marriage and business and raising, you know, people around us to become mindful and become more kind. And sometimes, it's interesting what happens with the people we love and how the mirror shows up for us. So joy is my yoga. Joy is really my kriya and my seva and my teacher in so many ways, and my lover. So I have been blessed with this life and where I am, and I have so much respect and kindness for my friend and my wife. And also, I have so much respect and kindness and love for you. As an amazing student, Martina, you've always been there. You've always, had that sparkle in your eye, and it's quite humbling to be here with you doing a podcast about kindness, the pandemic, and moving where we are. That's where I'm from. That's what I wanted to say to introduce myself. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Now, Joy, what do you say after these beautiful words?
Well, I do thank you, Eric, for being so kind with your words. And it is true that I feel like, that it's the everyday life that gives us the opportunity to see if these practices can be remembered and utilized. And it is challenging. It's easy to sit on the mat or, in a quiet place and be contemplative and kind. It's more difficult when you're dealing with children and life and stress. And the part of yoga that resonated for me as yoga first was really recognizing the spark within, whether it was the spark of energy in a tree or a flower, the refuge I took in nature from a chaotic, really violent house, and being outside in nature. I recognized that again when I was introduced to meditation. I realized, this is it. And then again, with a wonderful teacher that I had in fourth grade that passed a little note to me. And on the note, it said, "Look deep within yourself, and there you will find the truth." And I really didn't understand that note. I kept it for many years. And then later on, I knew there was something to it, but I really didn't know myself very well. And then later on, reading the sutras, I came across the word Purusha, the true self. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is really what life is about, for us to find our soul, to find our spark. And where and when does that come alive for you? And that's what really interests me, is finding that within myself and cultivating a relationship to it and helping people to find that in their lives. So that's really the part of yoga, like the essence of yoga, that excites me. And I remember, Martina, how many years ago, I remember you on that same journey, just so enthusiastic about finding what it is in this life that sparks your soul. And I love to see you now so shiny, and it's just, it's a great privilege to be with people on that journey.
Well, I can honestly say, for me, I think the teacher training itself was eye-opening and life-changing, because I felt seen, maybe for the first time in my life, by you both, by the other teachers, but also by the community you created, because there was such an openness, a rawness about it as well, about the conversations we had. They were deep, they were honest, they were full of vulnerability. And I think creating a space like that where people show up like that is very, very powerful. But also, in my experience, it is unique. I have not experienced it in the same way ever again. And I still hold that space inside of me, because it's valuable. It's still giving me energy, hope, trust. And I think that is due to your work, to both of your work. You built a very strong community. And maybe you can share a little bit about how you did that, how you actually came to create such a strong and powerful community with Purusha. studio, the school, the Seva Project?
I think it's the story of what Joy started and why she had the courage to start the studio. And it's, always a story that people attach themselves to. And the story becomes stronger and almost becomes a form of faith in a way to believe in what an institution can do. And at Purusha Yoga, it's always been about serving the community, being artful, both in dance, movement, and in drawing and creation, trying to be creative and finding that source, and finding our true selves, the name which Purusha stands for, really finding that true self. And I know Joy has a pretty powerful story that is compelling and in retrospect does ignite a fire under people and bring them into what is most important, what really matters. And so when there's a story that drives that, I think that's what helps develop community. That's what helps develop people's own tenacity to move forward in spite of, flying with turkeys, in spite of the challenges of life, and finding the courage to step forward and be the warrior of their own spirit and carrying that into the future.
Do you want to add anything, Joy?
I think when I think of building community, I think of creating a place that's inviting and warm. And I think a lot of yoga studios in particular are not inviting and warm. And people are afraid to go into a new place, to open a door, to enter in to a new place. People are shy and more isolated more than ever now, right, throughout the world. So it's really about meeting people where they are when they come in and creating a space where everybody feels welcome to be themselves, to be their true selves. And I think some key elements of community to make a strong community, it has to be diverse. And that means like different ages, different abilities, different stages of life, different opinions, different stories too. Like everyone comes with their own journey, but everybody's welcome. And, I just started teaching this philosophy class in person that we did during the pandemic online. And it was amazing to see old people, young people, people from different backgrounds, kids from University of San Francisco, older Chinese people. And the older people don't really have anybody in their life that's gay or that's non-binary or that has a different outlook on religion or spirituality, and to hold the space, but really to see that people are interested in what each other has to say, and to be showing up in a place where you can be a little afraid, like Eric was saying, to be brave, like to create a space where people can listen to each other. And then that starts to ignite conversation. Also, I think never underestimate the power of tea. Like a place where people can gather and eat or sip, and just have like a common ground is really wonderful as far as bringing different people together. Yeah, so like all level classes, different commonalities where people can meet and be together. I think those are ways to create community, to see each person, to celebrate each person, to maybe not have a norm, right? To kind of keep it fresh and respond, right? Respond to what your community wants. So I've always been interested in just serving a community. And I feel like for me personally, being in service is the motivation, because you can let go of your ego, which is very comforting. Like it's not about me, it's about being in service to the people that walk in. And I don't know, there's something really relaxing in that. It doesn't have to be about knowing everything.
Yeah. I was just thinking, first of all, about the ego part, but second, about something that I really learned with you, even though I only reflected this much later, was I learned yoga with lightness, with humor, with acceptance. Just a simple example. I still have this debate, like, oh, we have a meditation in the morning, but oh, then I can't drink coffee. And I remember, I don't know, Joy, if you said it or Eric. Well, if you had your coffee before, then you will just meditate faster. And I still like that sentence. It's easy. Well, if you want your coffee, drink your coffee. And yeah, just be who you are and show up as you are, without all the must-haves and do this and do not do this because now you're a yogi, or this way you're not a yogi. So that's what I still hold very dearly, that it can be light, and it's fun. It's maybe not always easy to kind of get closer to your true self, to your Purusha. Sometimes it's nasty. There are shadows, and sometimes it's work. Sometimes it comes lightly, but I remember that from my teacher training, that I'm still always searching for the lightness, for the easy, for the relaxing into whatever comes up. And I'm really grateful for that. And I think that was possible because of the community you created, because of the safe space that you created. And yeah, I'm grateful for that. I try to carry it forward in my very own way. And I hope I'm doing it in a good way. Now, you've already said that a little bit, but we haven't gone there fully yet. The pandemic has changed us. It has changed cities, places, how we interact with each other, with ourselves. And yeah, we see that a lot. And I also kind of heard, mostly from social media, that you went through your own hardships during the pandemic. You're a couple, you're married, you have a yoga studio, a school together, and there were some ups and downs. Maybe you want to share a little bit about what you've experienced, and maybe also how you got through it. I mean, how you got to the other side of it.
I'd love to say something here, which is that the way you were describing the lightness and your experience with the coffee and the meditation and such, to me sounds like kindness. That is, I think, kindness, to take it with a little more light, with a little bit less judgment. I think you really defined kindness really well there, and it really resonated for me. And I feel like that's how we got through the pandemic too, without really calling it kindness, but just, not taking ourselves so seriously. Like when you lose somebody that you love very much, the way I lost my son, he took his life to the next realm. And I feel like when you have lost a big part of yourself, or the way you thought of yourself changes so much with that kind of loss, that you lose yourself, then you realize the gift of losing yourself is that you're not taking yourself so seriously. Mother, daughter, business owner, money, possessions, whatever it is, however you identify yourself, that gives you power, that gives you comfort. You don't take it so seriously. It's very scary at first, but then you realize there's some freedom in that humility. And when we lost and realized, okay, we're being threatened with a lawsuit, we have to go bankrupt to protect ourselves with the advice of the lawyer. We probably wouldn't have done that unless the lawyer advised us to. But when you realize, okay, this is it, it's kind of freeing in a way to realize, okay, there's freedom here to start over. It's like the fool at the beginning of the hero's journey. So we did have that. And Eric and I both are very tenacious. We're both hard workers. We'll always dig in and try something else and just go again, like little dwarfs looking for the gold in the caves. whatever the dwarfs are being called in the next politically correct movie. Yeah, you just keep on working. You just keep on going.
Yeah, we did. We just kept going. It was an interesting time. I think, there was a bit of despair at one point, but we pivoted so fast, Martina, that first day, we had just opened up a new studio in Berkeley, and on the 17th of March, we were told we had to shut our doors. And, we went, okay, this is going to last for 3 months. And, we had kept our teachers employed, and we had kept going classes online. And 3 months later, nothing had changed. Everything was still the same. And that's when things kind of dug in, and we had to make a shift. And we did make that shift. And looking back, I felt that it was a great opportunity to grow and to say, okay, well, I can become a better yoga teacher. I can become a better business owner. I can do this better, knowing that I have a little bit more free space as the pandemic gave to all of us to move in, to think in, to sleep in with, to go to bed late with, we kind of shifted and changed and took freedoms that we normally wouldn't have taken. So I think there was a gift in the pandemic that all of us can kind of go, yeah, there was that extra time that we got to search ourselves. Whether we were yoga teachers, bankers, grocery store workers, whatever, we had that time to kind of reflect. And I think that's showing up now, even after we went through some hard times and challenges financially in order to make it through. On the other end, I think we all came out of this a little clearer, a little bit more focused on where we want to go. And I think that's taking shape now as I'm bringing this conversation a little forward to post-pandemic, that we are, I think, a lot wiser. Or maybe not. I don't know. I think, I know for myself and for my mother, who's 86, she's a lot wiser. My sister is a lot wiser. My brother-in-law, friends, students that we teach get it faster. They're more reflective. Whereas before, pre-pandemic, people were just moving. And it was a little different temperature of water that people were swimming in. And I think now it's people realize, like, well, I don't have to swim. I can just sit here and contemplate before I take action. So I see a lot of that happening now. And like I brought up earlier on, I think, San Francisco is taking a new direction and opening up in a new way. Hopefully it does. It has an opportunity to, and reflect upon the homeless and to change its ways as governance and to open up to a little bit more responsibility to community and to help that community rather than just, destroy community, which they have been doing for a long time. And that's a whole nother conversation. But
thank you. Wow. Yeah, I'm really impressed. I don't know if you know that, but I got married the day the lockdown started here in Germany. So we married, and I think 6 hours later, everything was closed. Even the restaurant was closing as we were celebrating our wedding with very few people. And we had started our company only 3 months before the pandemic, and we lost all customers we had. And we basically had to start our whole digital programs again. And what we did in the first, I think, month after the pandemic started, we just sat there. We just enjoyed the sun. We sat outside. We drank a lot of champagne and celebrated our marriage. And yeah, I think there was something like a disbelief of, wow, is this really happening? But then I also felt, I think that's good for the world. There's something good in this. There's something good in the silence, in the standing still. And well, there were other times too where I felt super frightened and, oh, how is this going to play out? But it worked out somehow. And yeah, you said that at the beginning, and I still feel like we're still digesting as a society, as humans, what this experience was for all of us together individually. And what I see in my work is it brought a lot of people just back to themselves, to confronting themselves, to asking themselves, who am I? What do I do in this world? Why am I really here? And that's what got me thinking a lot about my teacher training, about our conversations, because in the teacher training you gave me for the first time in my life tools to connect with that Purusha, the true self, a topic like purpose. For me, there were new words like abundance. I didn't even know what abundance meant in German. And purpose was also like, what's purpose in German? No one is talking about this word in German. And you gave us tools. You gave us advice, tools, connection with our bodies and in a way with our minds. And I also know that everyone kind of uses their tools differently. But I think that's amazing work what you're doing there. You're giving people ways to connect with themselves, to look at themselves. And I mean, Joy said that already a little bit, like that's what you wanted to do in a way. But what do you think does it take to actually guide people like this? How do you do it? How do you get the energy and the motivation to guide people, in my opinion, so strongly on their personal paths?
That's a great question, Martina. I feel like it starts with cultivating a relationship to your truth within. And sometimes you have to get through the physical body for a year or 10 years or a month, right? Different for everyone. Maybe you get there first through the mind. You meditate and you learn, oh, I can quiet my mind. And maybe you get there by being creative, right? A lot of people really respond well to just being creative, being in nature. We all have ways and times and places in our lives where we feel there's a grace, there's an ease, there's a sense of connection to truth. And I think that's always a good first question, where is that for you? When are you in those moments of awe and beauty of knowing? And that's a great place to start. And then you can work towards recreating that. Maybe it's something from your childhood that you can bring in some new way that's tangible for this space and time. So really helping people just get back to what matters to them. Because a lot of people, took the job maybe because they thought they needed to make money to feel satisfied in this life. And that's true. Having having money is good. It's nice in this world we live in. And then there's a sense of despair that something's missing. And so people come and look for something beyond that or within that. And so most people are coming asking the questions already, like yourself. Maybe you don't know what you're asking or what you're looking for, but you're there, you're curious. And then you tap into that curiosity. And doing that while someone's in a meditative state is easier than an intellectual conversation. So I think talk therapy is great, but getting into a deeper state, a conscious state, tapping into the subconscious, the deeper layers is where the magic begins.
I agree with you, Joy. I really agree with having a conversation with your awe. Finding that awe, really helps us refuel ourselves and give us the ability to move forward, gives us the ability to grow, gives us nutrients in a spiritual way and a very cognitive way to just arise to our experience of life and how we process what we've been through and what's happening in front of us. It's hard being human. It's difficult, being human. And fortunately, through the practice of pratyahara, we're able to really bring in and focus our senses inward to allow ourselves to just capitulate and really look at that one thing. And sometimes that one thing is awe. Sometimes that one thing is anger. Sometimes it's despair. Sometimes it's this. But we have the ability to go, okay, I'm just focusing on that. And now pulling that focus away and then going to the next thing. sometimes we start to see, oh, we're looking at all these other pieces here. And we have to make a choice how we're trying to find our true selves. And what is that choice that you're going to make? Oh, I'm going to be a yoga teacher. I want to be a businessman. I want to be a firefighter, you know. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good wife. I want to be a good mother. I want to be more sensitive. So there's all these things, and all of these things are hard. They're hard to do. They take skill, they take time, they take energy, they take effort. And we sometimes don't give ourselves the ability to be mindful enough to realize how hard we're doing and how hard we're working and how fast we're moving. And coming back to this pandemic slowdown, it gave us that ability to slow down and become mindful, to become maybe even more hateful in a way, as it has proven to be. You know, we see a lot of hate in this world. It's always been there. It's not going to go away, unfortunately, but it's a mechanism where people do learn. And when they realize, God, this hate is really, I don't need this hate. It's not carrying me anywhere. It's not fulfilling me and sustaining me. And people get sick and tired of it and they move on. They get curious about something else, hopefully. And as yogis, we take it all in. You know, we're not saying that hate is bad. Hate is, it is bad, but it is on the same level as love. And they both exist together. Black and white exist together, right? Man, woman exist together. Yin, yang. And those differences are there for us to find our true selves so that we can reflect upon this part of ourselves or this part of ourselves. And that practice of pratyahara, bringing that focus inward, gives us those moments to really integrate and look at those pieces in our life that we can do with or do without. And so as we launch ourselves forward into the moment, there's always this presence to become aware and to grow. There's this gift. That's why it's called a presence. You know, it's really a gift to us to open and to delve deeper into who we could be possibly. Yeah? Possibility. Not knowing what you don't know. Becoming aware of that and going, well, I don't know that. And that's one of the best things to do. And sometimes it's one of the most freeing things to do, to not know it all. I definitely don't know it all. And it's, you know, a battle. It's always a battle. But it's, but I know how to do this. I'm going to do it right. But ultimately, we really don't know what is the best way to do things. We're just trying to our best and trying to get there. And everything seems to be an experiment. And sometimes those experiments go wrong. Sometimes those experiments go right, you know? So we're just growing and picking up the pieces as we go along. So I think mindfulness is really about that, just showing up in these places that we can bring our focus to. And then learning from it, putting it in our pocket of experience and moving on, you know?
So many things that I would like to pick on now and just start another conversation. The imagery that came to my mind right now was just the lotus flower. You know, you start in the mud and something beautiful comes out of it, and from that you move on. You know, and I think that's what most people are seeking, right? Their own kind of way to bloom and to blossom and to show up in their most beautiful version. And it's not always easy. It's like you really have to be somewhere in the mud to kind of flourish. And I think I've definitely experienced that. And in a way, that's what I heard from your past as well, even though it's not linear. It's a going back and forth and looking at things, being open, being honest, being vulnerable. And yeah, I think that's beautiful. It's empowering. it's freeing, as you said. I can say from my experience, sometimes it's also super frightening to be that and to be with that again and again and again, and to be aware and to look at things, and yeah, to also look at all the things that sometimes want to be seen and you don't know how to look at them. That's at least what I have experienced very often. There's one last thing I would really like to talk about, because I've seen it, I've experienced it. I did my teacher training with you, and afterwards I just had to change my life. I remember sitting in the studio doing a yoga class, and then afterwards we had a philosophy session with Joy, and I said to her, I think I can never go back. And you said, well, bad luck. Now you have to move forward. And I was like, oh my God, that's so scary. Now I have to do something with the yoga and the mindfulness, but I didn't even know what. And yeah, it's been like that. I never went back, and I'm just kind of moving forward, and it's a continuous and seemingly endless journey. But my question is, I moved back to Germany, but there are a lot of people who stay in the US, stay in the city, come back to you. How do you guide them? How do you guide those people who can never go back and maybe seek an entirely different life for themselves after they did a teacher training with you or after they have been working with you?
Well, we're always there for people, if they want to come back. And people do leave and then come back, and some people stay, and some people stay and teach right after their teacher training, or just stay in the community, stay connected with the people in their class. I am right now working with people on starting their business, and this fall I'm going to be doing a series of 3 different 6-week courses with people to help them really start their businesses. Because I think, I wanted to ask you what was frightening for you in those times that you felt the fear. I know for me during the pandemic, the big shift was I had to keep learning. I had to keep learning software, and then more software, and then another piece of software, and learn the technology, and learn how to market online, and learn how to manage people, and learn how to teach online. Like a lot of new skills, there's a lot of new learning happening. And then there are also times when you feel like you're learning and you're striving and you're putting new skills together and there's no opportunity. And I think that's a real problem. The, yoga therapy, for example, which is part of our school, is to become a yoga therapist. There are opportunities in Germany, Israel, little here and there in the big cities in America, but it's still slow going because nobody's making a lot of money off of fitness, mindfulness, yoga, not as much as pharmaceuticals. So I am very active with the International Association of Yoga Therapists and professional organizations that are creating opportunities in the holistic medical alternative, but not really alternative, like part of the current medical system and healthcare systems in the world. We have to create more opportunities for people. And then there are people that want to have other businesses, like Eric said, or bring it to their job as a first responder. And I think the world is changing, and I think there's a lot of intelligence. There's AI happening, which is really can be really frightening, but also it's the opportunity for us to ask, what is it to be a human? Where can we meet each other as human beings in that place of sentience? I love the idea of becoming Homo sentiens instead of Homo sapiens. We're not just intellectual, we're feeling beings. And it's an exciting time to be alive. But I do think there needs to be opportunity because the root chakra has to be provided for. Money, security, home, safety, right? We need that in order to grow. We can't grow if we don't feel secure. And so I think to create spaces where people feel secure and to partner with other nonprofits that are providing opportunities in mental health, and to work with food security, just basic needs being met first. A lot of times with yoga, it's helping people with their basic needs first. Then you can be creative. Otherwise, it's just privileged people that we're serving, and that's not everyone. That's a very small percentage, actually.
Thank you. I love the Homo sentiens. I love them. I'm going to pick them up a lot in the future. It's so beautiful. I have this discussion around AI and humanity, ethics, morals so often. Coming to your question, what was so fearful for me? I think first, I never really trusted my own capabilities, that I'm good at what I do. I still don't. And the other thing was really a root chakra topic for sure. Like, am I capable of sustaining myself and my family through following my passion? Will I be capable of making it real? And will I be able to become successful with a topic, which at least in Germany still feels very far away, like from the real economic world, like bringing mindfulness to companies, what we do. I'm still kind of in the initial stages of explaining why it's worth trying mindfulness in the firm, why it can actually help people to deal with the daily pressure, stress, but also with a lot of other things. And I'm still kind of in this situation very often where I talk to business owners or CEOs and they tell me, but isn't this something people should do in their private time? And yeah, so I think there is still a lot of discussion to be had, and there's still a lot of groundwork to be done. And that sometimes is frightening. That sometimes still scares me. And yeah, I think that is what happens for a lot of people who start something new in an entirely different kind of way. Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe I'm just seeing it from my perspective.
Yeah, when you're going into a corporation, it's always good to have data, right? There's so much research available that you can bring with you. But also, as you're speaking, you're reminding me, yes, of those pioneers that are like screaming from the mountaintop that they have the solution. And I think sometimes you just have to scream from the mountaintop, and that's what you were looking for. You were looking for the permission to use your voice, because you have a very powerful voice. And I remember that was a part of it for you. A big part of it was to feel, and I think that's a really good point. It is a big part of it for a lot of people, the insecurity of your own voice being enough to be heard. But really, it is that passion from within. Like, when you know that you got something, there's no way people can't hear you. Like, when you know that the mindfulness program you have for the corporation is the answer, it almost just bubbles out of you with so much fire that it can't be ignored. And then you have some data.
And then you have some data. Yeah, that's true. I think we have to shout this out very loudly to all the entrepreneurs, founders, business owners right now who are listening. I loved what you said, and I couldn't say it any better, like believing in your own voice, and that it is worth to be heard, and it will be heard when you believe in yourself. I love that so much. Thank you. Looking at the time, I think I'm going to ask my last question, because I just think it's so important, and I know you both are big visionaries. What is your vision for the future? A very open question, but I really wanted to ask that question today. What is your vision for the future?
You got it, Eric? You go.
My vision for the future is people willing to be more vulnerable, people willing to say what the Gen Z spirit is really about and showing up with this newer generation. There'll be other generations to come, but there's some really beautiful kindness that's coming out of this younger generation. And I think it's because they've been vulnerable. They've been opened up. They've been split open, literally going through school during the pandemic. And they become very, very an open scar, if you will. They're trying to heal. And I think this generation is going to teach us a lot. It's going to bring forward some really interesting pathways in which we can all grow. And I think it really comes into the Yama Ahimsa, yeah? Do no harm to ourselves or anyone else. And I think seeing these younger kids be so kind to each other. We had these gatherings at the studio, and everybody's speaking so kind. There's so much awareness with these, high school and college age children, people up to 26. It just seems to be sort of a little bit more awakening happening that is feeding off and starting to hopefully bleeds into and gets carried to the fabric of society, to where people aren't afraid to be vulnerable, to just really go, oh yeah, I'm afraid, rather than this, this armor that we were taught to wear, at least in the generation I grew up in. And I think that will help us to procure a more sustainable life on Earth, and also to get a little bit more awareness, hopefully, throughout society and throughout the world. I mean, I think we're at a huge turning point where we're either going to bake alive, wear shorts for the rest of our life, but is it the end? Is it the end of humanity? Is it the beginning of the end? We don't know, but the experts say, yeah, we're kind of at that tilting point where there's no turning back. So if there is no turning back, can we just be nice? Can we enjoy this last run with each other? Can we find the secrets of humanity within ourselves to just enjoy being alive with each other without hurting one another, without taking everybody's lives? Why are we selling bullets? Why are we selling bombs? All this has got to end. There's no goodness that's going to come out of that. So I just hope we can become more vulnerable and celebrate that vulnerability.
You said a lot of beautiful things there, Eric. Thank you. I think to be in a place where there are more shared values, more core values shared with more people in a holistic way throughout the world, for human beings to gather up the wisdom from the indigenous cultures, where people understood that we were all one and that we're all part of the ecosystem, is really vital at this point, and merge that with industrial and technological innovations. And that's really the only way that we're going to survive at this point, is if we can take that sacred pause. I do think the pandemic gave us the opportunity for the sacred pause. And now we need to take it again with AI, and take it again before we move forward too quickly. And this will change institutions, universities, the way we learn, the way we do business, the way we are in the world. So it is an exciting time, and I do have hope in human beings pulling this off.
Thank you so much. I want to briefly summarize what we talked about, because I think we talked about so many beautiful things that I just briefly want to wrap it up with 3 points that I'm taking away from this. So first of all, we talked about how you found yoga and why it is so important to really get in touch with your true self, your Purusha, or however you want to call it. Joy, you said that so beautifully. We also talked about serving, and you explained to us how you serve, why you serve, and in which ways you serve, which I think is very, very inspiring to a lot of people. What I also liked just now was the example of the sacred pause. And you said that this sacred pause gave you two freedom to maybe make new choices, to look into different directions, and to show up maybe in the same way, but still in a totally different way with Purusha. And I think that's very inspiring as well. And I think last but not least, I would like to ask you, do you have a recommendation for a kindness practice that you would like to give our listeners today? Is there maybe something you would recommend them to do tomorrow to tap into their very own kindness?
My kindness practice would be picture yourself as a child and see other people as a child. And be kind to each other with that same childlike honesty, that beginner's mind, as opposed to approaching everything as, I already know this, I'm the expert, this is how it's going to work. But showing up and just going, hi, you want to play? And having that ability to show up and be in that fun, that willingness to explore. I think there's kindness in that. There's that repertoire of things to do and provokes interest. And I think that kind of kindness is, simply as, petting a cat, petting a dog, being nice to somebody in words as well. But coming to that beginner mind and that childlike awe is really important. It's a great practice to come into and, get away from trying to be perfect.
Yeah, I think what Eric is saying is right on to be able to do that. I think to be able to do that, one must practice meditation and stillness and breathing. It's so challenging to stop the train of being right. And the only way to learn that, because we are pretty stupid otherwise, is to meditate a lot and learn to quiet our mind and our thoughts and our impulses, and to learn to become happy with being still in our mind and our bodies, so that we can access that practice of seeing that the other person is also suffering and is a child. And it's challenging, and I agree with most of every master teacher I've ever learned from or been inspired by, that meditation is the most important practice.
I agree with that for sure. And one of the most challenging practices as well. Thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity, your kindness, for being here today, Joy and Eric. It was beautiful. And dear listeners, you will find all information and links about Joy, Eric, and Purusha Studio School projects in the show notes. So if you like the episode today, or if you're ever going to San Francisco, or if you're living in San Francisco, go see Joy and Eric in the studio, have a class, have a chat, have a tea, and just, enjoy the community as well as everything the studio has to offer. I learned a lot from it, and it, as I said, it changed my life. Yeah, and if you liked today's episode, do not forget to subscribe on Spotify or iTunes, and feel free to leave a comment with your thoughts, maybe even on the big exercise at the end. Do you still play like a child, and what does it mean to be in awe like a child? Thank you all for being with us today. Thanks, Eric and Joy. Maybe you want to say bye to our listeners.
Thank you, Martina. All the love to you. Really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Martina. Thank you, Eric. Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for everyone that's listening. And we hope to see you soon in San Francisco or somewhere out there in this big, beautiful world. Namaste.
Thank you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy. Namaste. And I hope to talk to you again soon. Bye.